obviously we kind of knew this was coming, but how difficult is it to kind of pull the trigger on, such an important piece of this team and franchise over the past few years?
Yeah, I Betsy, I mean, that's the piece to it, right? We know where we're at, competitively right now, with our standings and some of these things are part of the business, right? You get used to those conversations when you've worked in it for a long time. But one of the hardest parts is the relationships you have with the people. And then let's layer on top that, it's someone like Nelson Cruz, who I've been around a lot of really good players, teammates, staff, otherwise. This is meant with no disrespect to anybody else, but he may be the best teammate I've ever seen in terms of the way he goes about his business, the way he puts his arm around people, the way he helps us become better in our front office jobs and in our and coaching staff jobs. I mean, this guy is beyond special. And so I know he, was probably somewhat expecting this conversation at some point. I don't know if he was expecting it today. In fact, I know he wasn't, but when Rocco and I sat with him and told him it was a very emotional conversation for all three of us. That was very special, and there are a few moments in your career that you have that you remember for sure. That one, as difficult as it was, will always stick with me because of what was said between the three of us in that.
Hey, Derek, it's 8 days before the deadline, and obviously you probably wouldn't have moved if you didn't like what you're getting back. Do you think that side of things, the teammate side of things, as well as what he can do, did that create a better market for him than maybe you guys expected?
Yeah, I think going into this deadline, as we talked to a number of teams that had interest, Eric Neander and I talked quite a bit over the last, couple of really a week and a half about this when they had interest. The Rays were aggressive, and they valued what Nelson brought on the field. We all know what that is, but what he brought off the field too. And I credit Eric and Kevin Cash and like some of that group that I know we're really looking for someone like him. So we feel really good about the players we got back. It's not easy to talk about trading Nelson, but in Joe Ryan and Drew Strotman, we feel like, given what we were hoping to get at this deadline, at least, with that in that conversation, we feel like we may have even exceeded that. So these guys are two upper level pitchers who've pitched as well as anybody in the game in AAA. Both have different characteristics, different abilities. And we're really, really excited to get them to add to our pipeline here to hopefully help us here in the near term.
Could you elaborate a bit on what you liked about Ryan and Strotman in particular, what we're going to see from them, and how close you think they are to impacting your big league club?
Yeah, I think, do each of them, we found out Ryan through the course of our work here. I haven't been able to speak with him yet. I'm not sure they've fully connected with him. I think he's on a plane to Tokyo and he's about to pitch for Team USA in the Olympics. So we're still trying to iron out those details, which is a cool testament to what he's done and being on that Team US and being selected for that roster. This is a guy, I mean, his numbers speak for themselves, right? Like this guy, if you go look at his track record, he's consistently performed. He's got good pitches, really good fastball, knows how to use it, can command it. The Rays have had a strong track record of developing pitching. We know that, right? And I think that's a calling card of that organization. So to get someone like him who's developed through their group, I'm sure will be a great add for us. And obviously we know a little bit about that history there with Rocco and with guys like Josh Culk and others who've been around it down there. And then in Drew Strotman coming back off of Tommy John, a guy that's continued to progress and is tracking really well, healthy now, throwing the ball really well. You look at some of his underlying stuff, and I think some of that's even kind of working in a direction that's going to put him in a better spot than even his current numbers would indicate. For when you come back from Tommy John, there is some command challenges until you get back your feet back under you, things like that. I think we're starting to see the quality of his stuff, who can really spin it, knows how to pitch, has feel to pitch. To get two upper level pitchers who we think are AAA major league ready in the context of a player, obviously as great as Nelson is, who's expiring at the end of this year, was just a really good outcome for us.
Peter, just kind of over the course of the season and as the season has played out, how kind of difficult has it been to basically get to a point where you're starting to dismantle a team that you thought was going to have postseason hopes?
Yeah, we've made no secret of, and I haven't said anything else than we're disappointed, right, with where we are. We feel this is a talented group, and I look in that room and when Nelson was delivering his message to all of his teammates. I look around that room and think it's a really talented bunch. Obviously, our record does not speak to that, and we have to own that. That's on us, and we haven't gotten there. And now decisions have to get made. We're dealing with deadlines and timing and things like that. And this was one that came maybe a little sooner than some others do when you get closer to the end of the month. But it's very difficult because we think this is a good group. Now we see a lot of faces in there that are part of this team, next year as well. And we want to continue to grow that group. We want to utilize every day we're here to compete, to fight, to get through the end. I think our guys have shown that every night. We've had some tough gut punch games recently, and then show right back up and have a good game and find a way to win against a good team like the White Sox last night. That's what I think we're most sensitive to, is making sure that our group battles every day and that we get every one of our players the development they need to continue to put ourselves in a position to be right where we want to be as we start next year as well.
Derek, I just talked to a scout who said that Ryan's got a fastball in the low 90s, but he pitches with guts and has excellent makeup. Are those some of the qualities that attracted you to him?
Definitely. I think, Lavelle, you're right on with what we learned about Joe Ryan. This guy he's got moxie, guts, or whatever you want to call it, in terms of the way he goes about it. It's a low, as you said, low 90s for me. He's touching 92, 93, but he really knows how to use it. He knows exactly what his plan should be and the ability to execute. And he's had real success with his fastball. And we know that that's an important, characteristic at the major league level. He's continuing to develop his secondary pitches. This guy attacks his zone and finds a way to get hitters out. And I think his AAA numbers and really every stop along the way speak to that. So we're really hopeful that we can transition him here in the short term.
And does Stoutman have the type of stuff you think you could kind of play up a little bit more?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, coming off of Tommy John, you're not seeing, a full go right away, especially with the way, guys have been dealing with the last year plus, right? And, he was Tommy John 2 years ago, but we didn't have a full season last year. So there's an opportunity here that we think as he gets further away from it, I should have mentioned earlier, Bill Evers knows, this group too really well, and said, these are quality makeup guys who have good arms that come from a good system of development. And we're hopeful we can plug them in and be a part of the next wave of good pitching here.
I know Mark's got a question. Hang on, Mark, you're muted.
Okay, how about now?
There you go.
What can you just kind of explain what Nelson Cruz means to a team and can mean to a team? I mean, you guys have seen it obviously firsthand, and obviously now Tampa Bay is hoping that, but beyond that, he takes good at bats, kind of thing.
So, Mark, I'm going to say this, but don't write it this way, but I'm going to say that you can finally overcome your manager down there and his leadership. Now you got a real leader. Yeah, I joke. I love Kevin Cash. I do.
No, I know.
I know how I feel about him. But make sure you tell him I said that.
For sure.
Nelly, when he walks into a clubhouse, what I experienced in 2019 watching him, when he first got here, you'd heard all those things and we knew about his history and, what he brought to the clubhouse. But for him to, what he's done here in terms of helping younger players, I mean, even just now walking around the clubhouse and saying, you don't know how much Nelson impacted me. I think even in a short period of time, you saw very quickly how he led, and he's not a rah leader. He's not going to be out there, leading a team meeting every day. Guys don't need that anyway. But I would say that, when you have young players, which I know the Rays do, and talking with Eric, I know how much that mattered in this conversation, and credit him for wanting to bring in a guy like this who's going to impact that club. You got a lot of good young players over there in Tampa. So I think what he does is he shows guys how to be a pro all the way through, and both on and off the field. And his legacy for the Twins will last well past he's done playing. I don't know when that's going to be. It might be age 50 at this point, but it will last forever with us.
Yeah, Tom Brady and he can kind of get together on that.
That's a good call.
One of the things, Derek, just like the bat's still fast, right? I mean, they're getting him to help there against left-handers. This isn't a guy who's struggling to get the bat across the zone, right?
No, I mean, it's amazing. People joke about how he's ageless, and it really does feel that way. There are days where, I wonder for him, like, does he need a day off? Should we rest him just because he's, we recognize chronologically where his age is at, but he just doesn't slow down. He finds a way to fight through it. And he's had a couple small things this year with a stiff neck, things like that, and just coming back and boom, all of a sudden he's back at full go. So I think that he's somebody that he knows how to take care of himself, probably better than anyone I've seen, in terms of, it's legendary, his naps. So I told Eric, they make sure they have their nap room all set up so that he can do what he needs to do middle of the day. But he takes such good care of himself, and he performs every night, and he's going to battle every at bat whether the guy's throwing 98 or 92. It doesn't matter to him.
So, thank you.
You got it.
Have you guys expressed interest in having him return?
You know, it's funny that I was awaiting whether or not that conversation would come up as a little early for us to talk about the offseason plan. But I would tell you this, we've told Nelly, you know, all along how much he means to us, to this organization, what he's done. We'll always have a relationship with him. And so those conversations are sort of somewhere down the line, but you never rule those things out as you go.
Eric, with Ryan and Strotman, do you see them as being viable rotation options throughout the 2022 season for you guys, and your acquisition of them? How is that an indication that you guys are still trying to push for 22 next year as well?
Yeah, I mean, we've said it. As I said a minute ago too, we have a good core of players. We have some young players in that room that are getting some experience in developing. You know, I look around and see Ryan Jeffers and Trevor Larnach, and, you know, up until recently, what Alex Kirilloff went through, he's still going to continue to develop, even if he's not on the field. So we're going to utilize all these guys. You know, they're going to be a big part of our future, along with a lot of players who've been here for a little while now and are still with us. So I think that our view is we'll continue to build. We're going to try and compete. I've talked about sustainability, and we've been able to do that over the last few years. I'm hopeful we can continue to sustain going forward.
Derek, you got a move to replace Cruz on the roster?
I don't have one tonight. Our AAA team is not in town. This is the one time I wish we were truly, not the one time, but one of the many times I wish we were across town. It would make life easier. But we'll have that announcement post game in AAA tonight.